Time to go for a walk, carry a stick around in front of me like some sort of YouTuber or something. By the way, so I don't actually get paid by YouTube until I have 1,000 subscribers. So I gotta do this. You know what to do. You don't have to, I'm just letting you know, until I get 1,000 viewers, I never get a check, so it wouldn't hurt. Anyway, so I'm taking a walk right now, kind of near my neighborhood and some little paths and whatnot by the river. And I figured it would be a good idea to talk about something I never hear anyone else talk about. So I'll start the conversation. Maybe we can all make something of this. And that is the purpose of automation. We all know what automation is. We all have lived with the existence of automation our entire lives. Its purpose is completely obvious. It is not a surprise that automation replaces human labor. That has always been the singular purpose of automation, is to replace human labor. And we also know that technology accelerates. You know, it took millions of years or thousands of years or whatever to develop things like the wheel, and now we got airplanes, and now we're putting robots on Mars. You know, it all happens in an accelerated fashion. We know this. This isn't a surprise. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So why are we kind of getting caught with our pants down about the fact that when we replace human labor, we're still going to have humans? Like, what do you do? You know, like, we don't all have to work. There's a lot of like science fiction and dystopian, you know, visions of post-scarcity. We have things, everyone's familiar with Star Trek. I'll just use that example. We have somewhat more dystopian visions of post-scarcity where everyone unplugs and goes on some kind of drug, and just we devolve into some sort of, you know, weird society. We have things like the Time Machine, you know, that novel from forever ago, where humanity splits into two different halves, and one of them becomes kind of livestock for the other one to eat. We have things like the movie The Congress from 2014, where everyone kind of gets into their own little drug-induced VR hole and stumble around filthy streets while a few people take care of them, you know. And I think, I mean, of those, obviously Star Trek sounds like the most fun, right? Like, people just kind of travel around for personal development purposes, go about politicking. They don't really talk too much about what just like your average Joe does. Maybe they walk around underneath airplanes, try to record YouTube videos for each other. Gene Shepard, who is the guy who wrote A Christmas Story, you're familiar with that movie? The one with the kid with the BB gun who shoots his eye out and all that stuff. I'm gonna wait for this plane to get done flying. Hi, plane. So Gene Shepard, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he's the guy who wrote A Christmas Story and narrated it. Radio personality, way before I was born. He predicted that by the mid-1980s, 80% of Americans would be employed in the business of entertainment. He saw this. He saw that automation was replacing the need for human labor, and that we would all entertain each other, like on YouTube, ahead of his time. So, yeah, I mean, maybe all of us can be YouTubers, but fundamentally that still means that there needs to be buying and selling and making. The making gets done by automation. We've been over this. Automation takes care of that kind of stuff. Driving is being automated, we know this. Surgery is being automated, we know this. The reason Roma tomatoes exist, as I understand it, forgive me if I'm wrong, if you know better, let me know down there. The reason that Roma tomatoes are so popular, as I understand it, is that they're crossbred to have kind of rubberier skin so that their picking could be automated. So modern tomato picking is done by machine, and that replaces 100 human beings picking tomatoes. That's pretty good. So what do we do when no one has to work? Or when only 10% of everyone has to work? What about, like, right now, during this, you know, this kind of event that's affecting us all worldwide, where a lot of people are out sick, you know, they're not at work. But most work is still getting done overall. There's supply chain shortages and stuff like that, but for the most part, we're still, you know, carrying on. Do we actually need all those people? We right now have a lot of people really overworked, you know, not getting vacations, They're underpaid, so they're in debt, so they have to keep working. They have to maybe work multiple jobs in order to even just not get evicted. So that's messy. I wouldn't call that ideal. You know, the hardest working people are kind of the ones that are getting the most squished. But rude. But we also have to figure that even among people who are employed, a lot of people are waiting for work to come in. You know, they're maybe like Maytag repairman from those 1980s commercials where he's got a job as a Maytag repairman, but if there's nothing that needs repairing, he hangs out, gets bored. I know a lot of jobs people are working constantly and they're just working their fingers to the bone. But there's other jobs where you don't have to be really in the moment 100% of the time. You know, you just have to be ready when you're ready. Biologically speaking, you could think of that like milk glands. You know, most of the time they're just looking pretty, but when there's a baby, they better be there, right? You better have them ready for that. You know, a lot of other stuff that, you know, maybe you might have a car in the garage. You're not driving it 24 hours a day, but when you do need to go to the store, you better have it. And I think a lot of jobs kind of are along the same vein as that. You know, maybe you don't need to be churning things out every second. You just have to be ready when a job does come in. You have to be ready to take care of it when that happens. And that doesn't make you lazy in between those moments. It just means that you're ready in between those moments. If you picked up some other task and started trying to do that task, then you wouldn't be ready when you're needed for your main task. So the question starts to be, what do we do? Like, at what percentage of automation do we transition from calling a non-working person lazy to calling it just normal? You know, to kind of shrink this down allegorically into something that's easier to wrap your head around. Imagine that all of humanity was represented by 100 people in a boat, just on a big eternal ocean. 100 people on the boat. Everyone's got an oar, so everybody's got to row, you know, with their oar. And then one day someone invents a sail. And that takes care of like half the rowing you got to do, right? Like half the labor's gone, because now you just need like 20 people to manage the ropes and all that stuff. I'm not a sailor, so I don't know how that all works, but you got to, you know, manage what the wind is going to do with it. You only need half as many people. Do you call the other half lazy? You throw them overboard and say, thanks for all your help, but you're not needed anymore? Like, what do you do with them? What if someone invents a motor, you know? Solar-powered motor to push that there boat through the ocean. Well, now nobody needs to row and nobody needs to work the sails. Maybe a few people need to be trained and ready to repair it, you know. But do you take the other 95 people and just throw them overboard? Like, what exact percentage do you transition from looking down at the people who don't work and instead go, oh, that's just how it is now because we already automated everything. Our ancestors set into motion this thing where none of us really have to work anymore. We need to figure that out. We're kind of at that middle section. You know, we're not at Star Trek yet. We're not at dystopian, whatever dystopian, you know, future where everyone's just on an opiate of some sort and waiting for their heart to stop beating. We're not at either one of those yet. We're at the part where we start down one of those paths, or a different path that nobody's conceived yet. And what we really need to be conceiving is how we're going to follow that path. Because, I mean, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but I'm not wrong about this. Like, think about it. Automation has always existed for us to automate work, and that's always has been the point, to replace human labor. And the most time-consuming shit we do is often the easiest to automate. So that leaves us with a lot of time. And not everyone's getting it. The author William Gibson has been quoted to say, the future is here, it's just not widely distributed yet. And for, you know, a fair number of people, I guess that's true. You know, you look at people who have managed to make a living as YouTubers. Some of them work really, really hard. And some of them, they're really just documenting their leisure. And good for them. I'm not mad at them for that. Like I said, we're going to have to try and figure out a way to get all of us on that boat. And there's also a fair number of people who just don't have to work and also don't share it on YouTube or any other platform. And that's fine. As long as they pay their share of taxes, I'm happy with that. But we're all kind of approaching a point where that's going to be a lot of us. How do we make that happen? Like, how do we... I mean, it's happening. It's not about making it happen. How do we make it work? Anyway, think about that. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Again, I'm going to beg you to subscribe because I've never received a check from YouTube, and I'm like 550-ish subscribers away from that right now, which that'd be cool. I need to work on making more content if I want to get that paycheck.